Hey guys, it's been a while since I've made an album review. I believe the last time I made one was for Dead End Kings, which was about 2 months ago. So now we're here to cover one of the most highly anticipated albums of the previous decade. This is it, Wintersun, Time 1. Consider this my CD update because this is the first time I'm showing this to you guys, so that'll be my CD update, Wintersun, Time 1. And now, let's get talking. So I've wanted to talk about this before, actually, like about a week or two ago, but I was kind of turned off by the fact that Count Blaggerth got his video removed, and I was also caught up in college work, so that was a bit of a setback. But now that I have some spare time, and Count Blaggerth actually got his video back up by nuclear blast, miraculously, I am here to talk about it right now. So, anyway... So as you all know, this album focuses more on complexity and symphonics over speed and guitar riffs. When I think of this album, I actually think of Blind Guardian's A Night at the Opera. Blind Guardian's A Night at the Opera focused more on like the complexity of the songs, focused on more progressive structures, and I guess most people would complain about like the overproduced production or what have you. That's pretty much what I think about this album, even though it's actually a lot shorter than A Night at the Opera. When I think of the two Wintersun albums, it's kind of like comparing Somewhere Far Beyond or Imaginations from the Other Side to A Night at the Opera. Think of the first album, Wintersun, as being like a Somewhere Far Beyond or an Imaginations from the Other Side by Blind Guardian, and then you have Time 1, which I like to think of as A Night at the Opera. Or hell, maybe even Nightfall Middle Earth. Actually, I'd go for Night at the Opera. It's got the production quality, which is, more overly produced, so to speak. That makes it sound like I'm like nitpicking it, but I'm really not. I really think the production quality really adds to the album. It really gives it its own character, so to speak. This album, again, is much more operatic and symphonic in scope. You got the choirs, you got keyboards, you got acoustic guitars, the works. There's a stronger emphasis on clean vocals on this album. Not that there weren't any on the first album. I mean, Death and the Healing's a glorious song. It's just, much of the emphasis was placed on the growls, which are fantastic. The growls are still here on this album as well, it's just they're not as emphasized as much as the clean vocals are this time. They basically just like flip-flopped. First the growls get the emphasis on the first album, now the clean vocals get their chance to shine, and boy do they shine forth with radiant beauty. I think Yachty's clean vocal performance has actually improved from the first Wintersun album, and that just leaves me in awe. And don't mind my sporadic change in location, I had to move to a much quieter spot. It was getting pretty noisy upstairs, so I'm in one of the practice rooms now. So again, there's a much stronger emphasis on cleaner vocals and a more epic and symphonic environment as opposed to the absolute shred fest that was the previous album. And again, if overproduction in general manages to be a real frustrating factor for you, then you might not get into this album as much as others, but I personally don't see that as a real setback. I think the overproduction on this album really adds to the epic scope and the epic, glorious nature that this album has to behold. It's not like Dimmu Borgir or anything like that, which I think is pretty tasteless. If I had to name one complaint about this album, I believe that once you get past the initial anticipation and excitement for this album, I do think that the introduction, which is When Time Fades Away, I do believe that is a little bit longer than necessary. I think it would be more appropriate for like a live setting, which I'm actually pretty unfortunate in not being able to attend, but we'll see what comes up, I guess. But yeah, I guess that'd be my only complaint. The 4-minute introduction to the first song, Sons of Winter and Stars, it feels a little like a little indulgent. I think it feels a little longer than necessary, but that's about it. I think that's the only real complaint that I have for this album, really. And I have to say this, I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. This is essentially heresy, but in my mind, this album is better than the first album. Yeah, I said it. This album is better. And I love the first album. I adore it with all my heart. So for a score, I know I've been giving a lot of high scores this year, but this has just been a damn awesome year for metal, and this is another damn awesome album. 9.5 out of 10. Seems appropriate enough. Unlike all the other albums that I've heard and reviewed this year, this album right here is the true forerunner for 2012 Album of the Year. That's right. It beat out Catatonia's Dead End Kings, which sort of breaks my heart because Catatonia is my favorite band of all time. But you know what? This needs to be done. This is the Album of the Year, as far as I'm concerned. I'm almost 99% certain that nothing else that comes out this year will be able to top this album. The fact that this album just became my Album of the Year only has me more excited for what the second part has to offer. I'm thrilled with joy. I can't wait to hear. It's one of my most highly anticipated releases of 2013 next to Amorphous and Seventh Wonder. So thank you very much for sticking around for what I had to say, because it's Wintersun, damn it. It needs to be talked about. And again, thank you very much for watching my review. Have a good night, and keep it metal.